S7E4 was happening. This is Talk Entertainment and Art. Welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Ubab Lamini, aka Funny Pit on Instagram, aka Lyra on the streets, aka if you know me like that, and a bunch of other AKAs.
I guess you go by Babu Lamini.
Right here on YouTube. Here on YouTube, there's no other one I use besides that one.
Okay, I'm gonna use that one.
But on the streets though, there's different names.
Yeah.
But yeah, we out here. I have Sizo. He's the co-founder of Antidote Music. Did I say it right?
Yeah, Antidote Music.
Yeah,
And
and
Antidote Culture Foundation, but yeah.
Culture and Foundation.
Culture Foundation. Antidote Culture Foundation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like two separate entities that are almost the same in a way. But yeah.
So we're gonna be chopping that up, how the two entities work hand in hand, and how does he planning on pushing as artist? Because I know he has an artist signed on your label.
Yeah.
And many other things, guys. Oh, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe because it doesn't cost you anything. And you also like this video because it doesn't cost you anything. Drop a comment. I mean, can't just like and subscribe and not drop a comment.
Yeah.
Season 7, we're not liking. We out here. How you feeling, bro?
No, I'm easy. Just starting the year, planning and getting the ground.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, working in a way.
Hey man, January is just crazy.
Yeah.
It feels like 2 months.
I guess it's the longest month because people are broke, I guess. I don't know.
Bro, I think, and another thing, I feel like we just coming back from December.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of activities. Now there's nothing.
For sure.
But anyways, how can you just tell me on how exactly did Antidote start? And what was the main mission behind it?
I mean, it was started. We were in varsity, and I had done a show in Swaziland. It was called the Homecoming Party back in 2009. And then I went to Verts and I met up with the Melly. He was DJing, and then because this show that I did in 2009 was kind of big, so everyone knew about it. And then when we got to school, like when we met, it just felt right because he was already a DJ, and I came in as someone who had done this big show in Swaziland. And then we just had multiple conversations, and then we included some people, and then we kind of started. But Antidote Music itself, so we started as the Antidotes. So at the time, we were called the Antidotes, and we were just a collective making music, organizing events. And then 2012, a lot of people were asking us, because we're in Joburg, they were asking us, where can we find music from Eswatini? And at the time, there was no one who was putting music from Eswatini on the internet.
What year was that?
We started Antidote Music in 2012, but then the conversation started in 2010, between 2010 and 2012. So we were making music as the Antidotes, and then people were asking us, where can they find more of music from Eswatini, because we know you guys are already making music in the space. And even when we went on the internet, we couldn't find any. So we're like, maybe we can address this issue. But also, it became an outlet for us as well. It became an outlet for other Swazi artists. And we then started creating collaborations between Swazi artists and international artists. And of course, at the time, we're taking advantage of free internet at school.
Mhm.
So it kind of, became a springboard for us in a way. Yeah.
I want to go back to how big was it? Because it's like it actually touched on the
Yeah, it was. So I took a gap year between matric and varsity, and knowing how crazy Swazis who are studying outside were about coming back home, and there was literally nothing for them. And what happened was I went to Swazipo entertainment offices, and they were here in Babane back in the day, and they had
Mm,
some of the best offices I've ever seen in entertainment. And of
mm,
course, I've never seen others because we didn't have liberty in the country to have many. But then when I walked into those offices, I was like, I wanna work here one day, you know? Yeah, because like everything was so chilled. I've never seen an office space where people were just chilling. Nawufuna kuteka ibhola, uteka ibhola. It's an office space though, you know.
What?
So it was really dope. It was really dope. So I walked in and then I had a meeting with Shado.
Mm,
And then we talked about it. And he was like, "Which artists do you think would work best?" And then I gave him a list, and then started making phone calls,
okay.
and we brought Oskido into what was it, Ocean Waves, yeah,
Yeah.
Ocean Waves. So that was a huge show, and of course, because it was a homecoming party, it had a lot
Mosquito,
of yeah,
bro.
yeah.
Mosquito.
It was big. It had a lot of students from outside, and of course, when
So
a
how
lot.
much did you guys make?
I don't know. I don't know. All I know is I got street cred for the show. So
Yeah, fact.
yeah, so yeah, that's what I got out of it, and
Okay.
that was literally what got me into the space as well. Um, Being identified with the show and just being able to start conversations and get into spaces. So that was a bit
Mm,
easy because of that show. I mean, I didn't gain anything monetarily,
yeah.
but it became the launch for my career in music in a way, or possibly in culture as well. So yeah,
That's nice, man. That's nice.
yeah,
So moving on, you guys have now having this conversation that you wanna do this
yeah, yeah,
DJ that you linked up with.
yeah. Yeah.
So how did you end up saying, okay, now we are starting the company?
You
What
mean
sparked that?
Antidote
Okay,
music?
the answer to music.
Um, so what was happening at the time is, as the Antidotes, we were already putting out music with international labels,
How
and
did it? How did, sorry to cut you off.
yeah,
How did you manage to get the international labels? Like,
I mean, when you have the internet and you know some of these artists or label owners,
yeah,
okay, most of the time with the kind of music that we were making, which was house music, you'd find that a top artist has a label,
yeah.
you know. So when you know the artist who has a label, you can easily just start sending demos,
Mm,
shooting a DM on Facebook,
mm,
um, however way you want to send music to them. And sometimes they would go crazy because at the time, um, South African house music was based on Afro house. So the
okay.
early stages of Afro house, not the Afro house that we know now. Back then you had your ancestral Afrotech,
Tribal.
tribal, yeah.
Yeah.
So it had many subgenres beneath it, and of course it was something that we loved. But
Yeah.
when we came in with soulful house, and at the time, not many people were making soulful house, so it became easy for us to start conversations to a point where, because there were not so many people making soulful house, and the way we pushed the antidotes, we didn't really have a face. So there were people who believed that we're from the UK, you know,
Hmm.
because when you look at the name, the antidotes, and then one of the biggest artists is called, at the time, were called the layabouts.
What?
So, and the sound was almost similar. And then you had the layabouts were releasing some music with real people,
Mm.
and real people were also like a music group. So now you have the antidotes, the layabouts, real people, and the sound is almost the same. And you'd be thinking, okay, possibly these people know each other, you
Facts.
know, and we've never released with real people, but one of the weirdest things that happened, which is where we got the idea, is we sent a message to one South African executive,
Yeah.
and we're like, "Yo, would like to work," and he was so excited that we
Reached
reached
out.
out, yeah, and he's like, "Yeah, sure, I'm down,"
Mm.
and I'm like, "But first, we need to meet," and he's like, okay, how's this gonna work? Are you guys gonna fly down to South Africa? Like, how is it gonna work? And we're like,
How it,
no, we based in South Africa. And it's like, no ways,
what?
you know. And we're like, no, we Swazi and based here. And he was excited, and he wanted us to do a radio tour because he felt like people needed to know that we were from
Yeah.
here, and we are here. So we kind of did that, and um, also what made us believe that he saw us in a different light is when he also sent us an email when we are already working with him, and he's
Yeah.
like, I want a real people remix on this song. Can you guys get me in touch with them?
Yeah.
And he he still thought, even though we work with him, he still thought that we had a connection with
With
real
repeat.
people. And we never had a connection with real people.
Crazy.
Yeah, we've never. I mean, the only thing that has happened was one of the artists that we worked with at the time were called Groove Basement, did a song, a remix for the T, and the T was a, a real people release. I think it was by the Layabouts. So they did a remix for the T, and then we sent it to them, and they were happy to hear the. I mean, it was a bootleg. It was an unofficial remix.
Mm.
So they were excited to hear about the song, and that was possibly the only interaction that we've had with them.
Yeah.
So we've never had any interaction.
So in terms of releasing music with all the people you've mentioned,
Yeah.
do you guys have any feedback besides that the international act? I mean, like South Africa.
Feedback from South Africa.
Yeah, from the act in South Africa.
I mean, we started Antidote Music when not many people living in South Africa had record labels.
For real.
So yeah,
That explains.
yeah. So the
Explains.
main record labels in South Africa were Soul Candy, House Africa, possibly More Funk.
Get what I've too.
I mean, those ones were not in the space that we're working
Oh
in
yeah.
because for us, we were solely focused on house music. I mean,
Mm.
that has changed now, but at the time, that was like the core thing. It was like house music. So household names at the time were Soul Candy, House Africa. Like if you put a release with those guys, you sorted.
That-
Back then. But now we no longer have. I don't know if we still have House Africa, but we no longer have Soul Candy. So yeah, but then there are a lot of record labels now. But then when we started, we there weren't many record labels that were solely releasing online, but they were there. I'm
yeah.
not saying they were not there. They were there. But then what happened is it kind of gave us almost like a pioneering status
That-
or an early entry, I would say, whereby when you're looking for South African music, even though we were Swazi, but when you were looking for South African house music, you would find us as well, and
mm.
then you would always know, would see Antidote Music has some of the best releases in house music.
Yeah.
So in a way, we kind of built that street cred, and over time, when some people would mention like labels that they listen to in South Africa, they would
Mm.
always mention us as well.
Mm.
But we're not really South African. So
Bro,
yeah,
this is crazy.
yeah. Yeah.
So you guys are from starting as early as 2013 up until now
2012.
2012.
Yeah, yeah.
How has how has the algorithm changed? How have you guys grown?
I think it's been seeing the industry for what it is, because I mean we've seen the changes in the industry,
Yeah.
and we've been part of these transitions. We started releasing music when platforms like Aphrodisia still existed, and they closed office, and Soul Candy closed office. House Africa didn't release too many projects anymore. So we've I mean we came in an era where piracy was a problem, and now we have streaming and everyone can stream music, and seems not to be a problem anymore.
It's
So in a
literally,
way,
literally nowadays it's not. Even
exactly,
they can even
exactly.
leak your song.
Exactly, and it's okay to leak your
Yeah, it's
song. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So we've seen all the transitions in music, and I mean we were there when we were skeptical, when everyone was skeptical about streaming,
Yeah.
talking about streaming is going to kill the industry. But now streaming is helping artists to be discovered. So in a way, we've possibly seen the whole transition between MP3 as a format to now having the new formats that we have, because MP3 is also dying as a format. So yeah.
So have you guys I wanted to ask you, Uzi, since you were able to see the streaming
Mm,
or the CD
mm, mm,
and
mm.
and CDJs era, now it's
Yeah,
streaming. Do you think streaming is really helping artists
it is.
as much as CDs were doing the job?
I mean, a, a basic example I would say would be the rise of Mapiano. Like when you look at the rise
Yeah.
of Amapiano, the rise of Afrobeat, it kind of shows you that the space has been democratized in a way. So the the cost of entry has become too low, and it has allowed for easy distribution of possibly wealth in the industry, where
But
now you've seen Amapiano artists performing globally, like our local Uncle Waffles was it was performing is or was I don't know, performing Coachella.
yeah,
Yeah,
is
is performing Coachella. So that's through streaming. That's
right.
through being discovered. And streaming doesn't only mean your Apple Music and Spotify, but it also means I'm watching your video perform, and that's how she broke out. Because now you can monetize a video, through Facebook, through Instagram, through TikTok. So in a way, that also counts as streaming. So yeah, I think in a way it has made being discovered easy as an artist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, that is true. But I feel like we still need to have more deeper conversation about streaming. Like people can actually understand how this algorithm works. Because some people just drop music and then ends there. They don't monetize, like you saying, they don't sponsor
Yeah.
everything.
I mean, most of it, I think something that I always say is when you're going to release music, you're going to release music in a community.
Mm,
And if there's no community, where are you putting that music?
mm,
So if you don't have community, you can drop a song and nothing happens. But if we invest in communities, I mean, the same way, um, say, the event we met at,
the kitchen,
no, Leabo rendition,
the pop up.
the pop up,
Yeah,
also the kitchen. That's cultivating culture.
like,
And if now, rendition would drop a project, he has a community.
mm, mm,
So it's really about that. It's really about cultivating community online, physically, and otherwise.
yeah,
And people, it's hard to speak alone, but it's easy when you have ambassadors.
mm,
So the ambassadors are going to dress like you. They're going to listen to your music, and they're going to listen to music that is similar to yours. And what happens there is it's easier for someone wherever in the UK to say, I like that thing that is happening there in Swaziland, which is the same thing that Mapiano did.
Facts.
Like now
Oh,
you have people from Netherlands, from wherever across the world dancing to Mapiano.
I think more than anything, AmaPiano was it was a funded genre. So yeah, these
What do you
guys were
mean funded? What do you mean funded?
how do I put this in a way that doesn't sound
Yeah.
how do I put this? Guys,
Yeah.
these people were okay, let me just say
Yeah.
these people were putting in the work
Mm.
on and off the doors, like behind cameras and off cameras.
I mean, it goes with every genre or every subculture. There are people who are going to push that subculture, and they're going to push it because they see potential. Yeah, so it's not really to say it's funded, but it's really to say how can we do more to tap into this community, because the reality is the international community is looking into Africa for possibly everything now.
Like,
And I mean, there's who runs the world, Beyonce song.
yeah,
Mozambicans are dancing with Beyonce on that song,
yeah,
so that kind of shows you that from way back, the
been
whole,
happening.
yeah, it's been happening. It's like, how do I find a window into this community?
Mm,
And now they found the genre that creates the connection between the rest of the world and Africa. So it's easy to do Africa because of this genre. It's easy to
mm,
connect with Africans because of this genre. You, I mean, we were in Amsterdam, and the first thing that we had when we walked to, like, at the lobby of the hotel we were staying at, the receptionist was like, "Oh, you guys do AmaPiano and stuff."
what?
And I was like, "Okay, so this is like a conversation starter now, So it's like
Damn,
you cannot be from Africa and not know AmaPiano.
fact.
So it's easy now to create connections because of this genre. So before we didn't have a way, we had Ladysmith Black Mambazo, which wasn't really our thing as young people, as young people. So they were taking Grammys and all of that, but it
Yeah,
was easy to have a conversation about Ladysmith Black Mambazo with our parents,
fact.
not us.
Not us.
But the biggest community, the biggest community in Africa is young people. So how do we tap into young people? Let's see how we push this genre, and it creates that connection between the rest of the world and Africa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you've actually explained it in a more
Yeah.
valid and sensible way.
Yeah.
Now you
Yeah.
mentioned that you guys had a trip to Netherlands.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
tell me more on why you were there and how it went?
I mean, from the beginning, when we started Antidote Music, it was really about how do we break into the global market, because the reality of Eswatini is we are a small population. Even how successful you can be as an artist, this population cannot sustain you. So we have to look at ways in which we can export the kind of work that we do.
Mm,
And we have to tap into relationships. We have to create relationships. And one of the many reasons we even got to Amsterdam is because of relationships.
yeah,
And it wasn't just one relationship, it was a couple of people who made the trip happen. Because, I mean, the first was a record label that came to Bushfire,
yeah,
called Paradise Worldwide.
yeah,
They released the Zex Bandwini Osama song. So they were facilitating the Africa Rising workshop in Joburg, and then the Arts Roundtable at Bushfire.
mm,
And weirdly enough, some of the people that work for them are South African.
yeah.
And one of the guys is works with House. And when we introduced ourselves to him, he already knew who we were.
He
So
was a fan.
yeah, yeah. He literally
Yeah,
said that. He's like, you guys don't even need to introduce yourselves. I know you. So he moved to Berlin, started working with Paradise.
yeah,
And then we started talking about distribution. So they are doing our distribution now. But specifically for Amsterdam, they drafted a letter inviting us to Amsterdam
Yeah.
because we were like, we want to come, and what could be possible. And then they're like, yeah, we will be at it will be at ADE. So we were going for a specific event called Amsterdam Dance Event,
Yeah.
which is like, I mean, over 200 parties in the city, but it also has like conferences every day from Tuesday until Sunday.
Whoa.
So the party starts on Tuesday, and of course, there are conferences from Tuesday until Sunday. And they say they'll be there, and they are curating a show. So maybe Sooks could perform there.
Yeah.
So yeah, they drafted a letter, sent it to us, and then we took that letter and started knocking at doors. And then um, so I'm a recipient of the Prince Klaus Fund, which is like a Prince Klaus Seed Award. And Melly as well, who's my business partner.
Yeah.
And they are based in Amsterdam. Actually, Prince Klaus is from Amsterdam. Is from Netherlands, is the Prince of Netherlands. So we contacted them, and they were happy to help us because we are part of their community
Yeah.
now because we are recipients of the Seed Award. So that made it a bit easier because they kind of took care of everything for us.
Dope, man. Shout out.
And yeah, thank you, thank you.
Shout out.
And yeah, we made the trip, and yeah, it was really insightful. It was really important for I don't know if you know, we started our own conference in the country, Vugubone Music Conference.
I didn't know about.
Yeah, so we had a conference last year in August,
Yeah.
uh, based on music, and yeah, we were trying to we are trying to capacitate artists in the country to kind of put out the best work and know how they can protect their work
Mm.
and know how to exploit their work. So that there was a conference around that, and um, it was key for us to go to another conference to see how they do things. It was key for us to go to another city to see how they manage the night economy, which is something that is almost dead in the country, for our cities, at least for our cities. So it was really important to look at what mechanisms do they use, how do they, because when we got there, we realized that there are parties that start at 11 and go on till the start at 5, 6, and go on to possibly 11, 12.
Yeah.
So what policies are in place that these people are using that create this robust economy that happens? And I think you do know about the, what is it called? Red light district.
Yeah. I know.
That wouldn't boom if there wasn't a night economy. So if there were not people walking the streets of Amsterdam at night. So we needed to learn from a city that kind of is leading in that space.
Mm.
So we were learning a lot,
You
honestly.
guys went to the perfect location.
Yeah, for sure,
It's
for
the
sure.
perfect
We were
location.
learning a lot. We were
But
yeah
besides the learning part, how's the environment? How's the partying?
Yeah. I mean, like you walk everywhere, and I mean, during ADE, like during ADE, the whole city is alive.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say, yeah, the whole city is alive, and Amsterdam in itself is like a tourist city. So
Mm.
there's always people traveling to Amsterdam. There are a lot of English tourists because England is just next to, Amsterdam. Yeah, actually, the guys at Paradise Worldwide, the lady, the director, cycled from London to Amsterdam raising funds for a project in Cape Town.
Whoa.
So
Exciting.
yeah, yeah,
Damn.
yeah. So it's really manageable for people there to like go to Amsterdam, and it's really beautiful with the canals and everything. I mean, you watch movies and you see these canals and you're like, I want to be there. So
Bro.
yeah. So yeah, it was really
I had okay, from the movies I've watched, and
yeah.
and learning geography. I heard Kuti Amsterdam has a lot of milk and cows.
Meh?
Milk and cows.
Possibly. I do know Amsterdam has a lot of weed. I don't know where they get it.
They got weed.
Yeah,
It's Reggie.
yeah, we walked into a bar
Yeah.
and you couldn't buy anything that wasn't green.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the buffalo, the
Yeah,
green stuff.
like the green stuff, it's just people chilling, having coffee and just
Smoking.
yeah, and we were sitting there and we're like, this is awkward because we didn't know when we were walking here.
What?
Yeah. So
That's dope.
they have a lot of those. It's I mean it's kinda legal there. And
So they grow it,
I don't know about the growing. I don't know where they get their weed.
but they probably grow it because they have a good weather.
Possibly and possibly importing.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean if it, with even I mean I've never smoked weed, but when you hang out with people that smoke weed, they will tell you about a certain dealer who has a special
Jane.
strain,
Yeah.
so it's the same with them.
Oh.
It's like if you go to the shop, you'll find possibly something from Eswatini. I don't know if they have something from Eswatini, but I'm just making
Should let
examples.
them know we got this guy. Should tell them like, yo, we
Yeah.
outside.
So yeah, they have a lot of that, and possibly if just that weed is a very political issue, very touchy issue. But if we could, as a country, we could take notes from how they do it because it really brings stories there. Like
And joined
really, yeah.
our power now.
So yeah, they do have that across the city,
Yeah.
and yeah, and they have a really nice, I would say, uh, like there are museums everywhere. There are things to do everywhere. Like
Yeah.
literally, we were walking
So
everywhere.
how are the ladies there?
Uh
They fine.
I mean,
I'm sure they got a lot of Nyash there, bro. Those people drink milk every day. It's Nyash for days.
I actually didn't know about the milk stuff, but I do know they have a lot of farms.
Yeah.
Like even when you're flying in, it's like green everywhere. So I assume those are farms. But
They
then
graze. Yeah.
it makes sense because when you look at South Africa and you look at the Afrikaners who come from
Netherlands. Yeah.
Netherlands,
They
they are
also own farms.
farmers. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it
Fair.
kind of makes sense. But with the women, I mean, I think possibly like anywhere.
What? Nah.
I don't know. Like anywhere, I don't know. I don't know. Like there's people.
Those people.
Yeah, there's people.
Homie knows he got dashed. That's the one that leaked that thing.
I mean, there's people.
But
There's
you guys, who was part of your, who's part of the Antidote, com- who's part of the Antidote company that actually performed it? Besides Sooks?
no one.
No one.
So it was me, Melly, and Sooks.
Or was it three of you?
It was the three of us. Yeah, I mean it's quite expensive to go there. And
Yeah,
Amsterdam is quite pricey as well.
Yeah.
So it's not cheap. Yeah. So it was going to be a bit hectic.
That means the strip clubs are more expensive.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
It's fine.
I have no idea.
But
we did go to a friend of us did invite us to a show, and it was quite. I mean, I think once you leave possibly Africa and then you go to Europe, you start to find that some countries are big on diversity,
yeah,
and like we got into this club and everyone was there, like from every community, LGBTQ, everyone was there, and we I mean, to say it was a culture shock is one thing, but more than anything, it was like an eye opener, because the guy who invited us to the show was there with his girlfriend and he was DJing there. And when you're thinking, you're like, okay, straight guy, uh, with a girlfriend, and then you go there and it's very diverse, like you being served by a man with a bare chest, for example. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's serving you a drink, and you start to see that actually a world like this is possible, where
Yeah.
people coexist. And if music can bring people like this together, it means music has a huge role to
Ish.
bring people together in the
Fact.
world. So,
Fact.
um, yeah, but to say it was a culture shock, in a way, it was,
Mm.
because these are things that uh, are not, like, how can I put it? In our context here, these would be things that would be frowned upon, but over
Fact.
there, it's kind of normal. Like people do gather, and regardless of their gender, their sex, or their color, people gather. So
I think I see what you're explaining, and
yeah,
you onto something. I feel like our culture doesn't really allow this thing.
I mean, it doesn't. The
And
culture,
we are too cultural this side. We are too cultural.
are we?
I mean, we are breaking off. There's a huge gap.
Yeah,
There's a huge gap between our generation and our parents and our
yeah,
forefathers.
yeah.
You see,
So if we are breaking off, we should show that we're breaking off in a way.
but they're still in charge, though.
I mean, they are, but we can always create safe spaces around the things. I mean, when you look at the kitchen, when you look at the platform,
Mm,
it's a safe space. So in a way, we are at liberty to create these safe spaces. Yeah. So if we are breaking away from the traditional culture and creating our own culture, it should be a culture that is inclusive in a way.
mm,
So yeah, I think we can learn from places like those, that people can coexist regardless of color, race, which is the same thing. Yeah, uh, race, sex, gender. However,
mm.
people kind of. But yeah, yeah,
So okay, so coming back to Antidote,
yeah.
who are some of the artists you guys have under your label?
Uh, I mean, we have Sooks, we have Sanila, we have Mzwa.
Mm,
Uh, we have we work with a lot of artists actually, um, but there are artists who are in house and there are artists who are.
yeah,
But then Antidote Music is more of a platform for almost everyone.
everyone.
Yeah, but then because of, I would say, because with any business, you do want to have, I mean, even when you go to a brewery, they are going to tell you about these kind of brands of alcohol that they are
Mm,
pushing,
mm.
but then they do have all the other alcohol.
I
So
like the way you make it using alcohol to make that example.
yeah, so it's really that, even with artists that are not signed with Antidote Music,
Mm,
but when we work with them, Antidote Music becomes almost like an accelerator for them, uh, where we are just giving them platform to show us what they're capable of, and then with time, we like, maybe we can sit down with them and see how we can export them, because the key thing is, some of the artists that you would point out and say these are Antidote artists
mm.
are artists that we really want to export.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's like any other thing, it has stages, like a clothing brand. You're gonna sell in Swaziland, and at some point you'll be like, maybe now we need to sell in South Africa. Yeah. So even with the artists that we have in house are artists that we like. How can we break into new markets with them?
Okay.
And yeah.
But you guys are doing a very good job, and I've been seeing so crazy, going crazy.
Yeah,
It's going
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. We're trying. We're
It's
trying.
going crazy, guys.
Yeah, we're trying.
But so who are some of the artists that okay?
Mm,
I wanna. So if I'm a local artist, right?
yeah, yeah.
I don't have studio time, but I believe in my craft. Am
Mm.
I allowed to reach out to you guys for help?
I mean, you can. What we do is we we see what you have,
Yeah.
and we bring what we can bring, and then we sit together and we see what could be done. Yeah,
Okay.
that's literally what we do.
So in terms of distribution, are you guys able to have?
Yeah. There are actually record labels in the country where we've created a connection for them. So we're really trying to get as many people to be in the space, because without people releasing music, without enough record labels, we don't have an industry.
Like, like,
So the more people release music, the more value, even for people who are outside looking into Swaziland, if they can't find anything, they kind of erase that country. But if they look into Eswatini and they're like, hey, there's stuff here, so it's easier for them to then come in
mm.
and then try to find players in the space and see how they can collaborate or how they can work. So it's really that it's really about trying to cultivate the culture in the country.
So besides music and poetry, what else do you guys?
Do we focus on poetry?
Don't you guys follow in poetry? I mean, I
um,
read your bio that you've
yeah,
that you guys host a poetry event. I can't say the name because
yeah.
it's,
No,
it's a
no,
bit tricky.
not that I wouldn't say we focus on poetry. I wouldn't say the, I mean, music for us was a window into the whole art
Oh,
environment.
okay.
And our outlook was we were working with music for so long, but we are getting a lot of artists who are not musicians who are saying,
Mm,
how can I, sell my product? How can I get into platforms like this? How can I do that? And because of the extensive of work that we've done with music, when you try to work in any industry at the highest level, you're going to meet a diverse community who are working in different things. And some of our friends are festival owners who are not even doing festivals for music.
mm,
So they're doing for festivals for contemporary dance, they're doing festivals for poetry,
okay.
uh, festivals in different spaces. So
Mm,
now it's a matter of who can we help in Eswatini to
okay.
tap into these, because the key question that we get all the time is there a painter in Swaziland that I can work with? Who would you
okay.
recommend? And then you start thinking, because also the thought process is around the quality of work that this person is doing,
Mm,
and who in Eswatini would be a best fit for the level at which this person is working. So we then create and facilitate that collaboration. So we're really trying to get people to step out. Even with podcasting,
mm.
we have friends who have successful podcasts, for example,
Yeah.
and it's really about how do we then
Incorporate.
create that connection and trying to fast track
Mm,
the space in the country, because it's really about that. It's really about how do we claim our space as a country within the cultural sector in the continent.
mm,
So if you move around, like I attend a couple of festivals outside of the country, and sometimes I get the opportunity to speak at these festivals.
yeah.
And it's always hard because they don't know what's happening in Eswatini. They don't know what's happening in Eswatini, and it's solely because people are not working to get to these platforms. So we kind of do our work here, and most of the time it kind of lives here. I don't want to say die here, but it lives here.
Mm,
It doesn't go outside. And the key, as I said earlier, for us to progress as a country within the space, we really need to export our work. And for us to export our work, we need to reach out to the people who are creating spaces
Mm.
within certain environments that we didn't have the privilege to be in. So yeah, it's really that. So there is a festival that we are in partnership with in Mozambique. It's called Poetas Dama. It's an international festival for poetry, and they've brought poets from all over the world. And each year we do have possibly five or or any number of artists that go to Mozambique to
Yeah.
showcase. And of course, we have to pick those artists. So, um, but then we do work with other forms of arts, just that it's 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 things that possibly you cannot like pinpoint. But then people who reach out to me who are like designers, like graphic designers, I do create some kind of synergies for them.
Mm.
We do create synergies for each and everyone who's kind of working in the space and trying to use their talents or their thoughts, thinking into bettering, or telling the Swazi story, or
Mm.
yeah.
So
So
man,
it's
thank
it's
you,
really that,
bro.
honestly.
Thank you for coming through. I feel like
Yeah.
I just needed to hear this.
Yeah.
Basically, you guys are the plug. You are the
Yeah.
connect, the
we
distributor.
we are trying to be. I mean,
Yeah, bro.
honestly, anyone can be. If you have the opportunity to be in certain area. I mean, last year I uh, I worked with a lady from Taiwan to facilitate an exhibition for a Swazi in Taiwan who wasn't in Taiwan. I don't know how to explain this.
Oh.
So the Swazi was here, but then she had an exhibition in Taiwan without her needing to travel to Taiwan. So it's really about how do we claim space? How do we put ourselves out there?
Mm.
How do we cultivate, communities that can say, I can see these people, they're doing something,
Yeah.
So it's really that. It's really that.
Yeah, I know. I hear you, bro. I hear
Yeah.
you. I think all the disciples who are watching are also taking notes. But
Yes.
moving on, man,
Mm.
I want to ask you, Kuzi, since we are building an industry local, what are
Yeah.
some of the things that we need to
Stop doing,
do?
or
Yeah.
things that we need to
Okay, let's start
do.
with the stop doing.
Stop doing. It's hard to, because you basically saying I must pinpoint some of our mistakes.
I mean, there's certain things that we do which appear as mistakes because they don't get us where we want to be, we say it, or they actually depreciate the work or whatever craft we're putting in.
Can I say it in a way that I say things that we should do? I think we should be relevant to our people, because our people are our ambassadors. So we need to stop not being
Being relevant.
relevant to them. So
but but here's my problem.
yeah.
Relevance in the country is an issue because we don't really have a database that collects what is relevant and what's not relevant.
I mean, if I'm honest, ne, um, we, as you said earlier, that we are very cultural,
Yeah.
ne? And I'm not saying in a form that we are very traditional, but nje, we are conservative in some ways.
Yeah, fair.
And if we do speak on some of the things that we're conservative about,
Mm.
or some of the things that we would like to break,
Yeah.
or whatever, but as long as me as an audience who is not an artist, I hear this and you are speaking to me, I'm going to support you.
Mm.
And if I support you, you're going to build a community around me. And then by so doing, it becomes easier for anyone who steps out of the country to start saying, you must listen to this guy. So sometimes there's this huge disconnect between the craft that we do and us. So when I mean, an example is when I my analysis, when I started tapping into like this culture work that we do
Yeah.
was it feels as though we speak from a place of privilege as Swazis when we create. You
Oh,
you when you coming from outside and looking at our work, you would think everything is nice.
nah.
You know, you would think, oh, these people are cool, they're sorted. There's nothing that speaks, you know, not that there's nothing, not enough
We don't speak about
work.
the struggle.
I mean, it's not even about the struggles. It's really about creating a human connection. We people back people they feel like they know. Like the way you speak about Kendrick Lamar, you speak about Kendrick Lamar like
I
in a
know
way
that nigga.
exactly like
Did you listen to that song?
yeah, exactly. He speaks about this, he speaks about that. People have analysis of Tupac's lyrics because they felt a connection
They
between the
related to that
artist.
thing.
Exactly. So we don't have enough of that. We don't
Mm.
have this connect. There's a huge disconnect in how we speak to people. And the way you speak to people is how they connect to
Like,
So when someone is outside and looking into the country, the work is going to reflect on what's happening on the ground. How does a Swazi live? When you step out of the house, what do you do? It's all in the work, because if I don't get that connection, I'm not your fan. I cannot be your fan because I don't know you. It's like,
I don't relate to whatever
yeah,
you're
it's it's
saying,
it's
bro.
it's like making friendships. It's the same. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, these are this person's values. They align with my values. So maybe me and this person
Can vibe
can
together.
vibe. So it's really that, even with the music, even with the poetry, with the painting and everything, it's like, how do we create this human connection? And I mean, this was back then when I had this analogy that we create from a place of privilege, which is why when we're making music, it was happy. And it's not that music shouldn't be happy, but it should reflect, like, possibly everything that we do. Like the way you dress is how in 20 years they'll be studying Swaziland and they'll be saying, this is how people used to dress during this time,
Mm.
because it's not you only,
Like,
it's 1,000 of you who were dressing like this. And that is a community, and that is an era. And you can speak about that. And if you speak about Vans in your songs, people can relate to Vans.
because you gotta have
Yeah,
a pair of Vans.
exactly. So it's really about how do you connect with people? How do you speak of the times
Yeah.
that you live in? Because I mean, there's so much happening in the country. But let's say 20 years from now, I want to know
What happened?
what has been happening in the past 2, 3 years
Mm.
in Eswatini.
Mm.
It's hard because it's hard to find the work that tells the story,
Damn,
you
bro.
know. So now in a way, we are erasing history by not telling our stories.
Bro.
You know, this is why we don't know how it was like for our parents to live under the British colony.
Because they
I
never
have
taught.
no idea because I can't find anything that speaks on what was happening in that era.
Yeah.
Creations that were saying, oh, people were actually, you know, doing this, and that. This is what their daily lives was like. So it's hard to pinpoint these things. You even go to the museum and you try to understand, but there there's some inconsistencies that you find that you're
Damn,
like,
man.
but how do I connect, understand how our parents lived,
Mm.
you know, how our grandfathers lived under
I
the
mean,
rule of the British?
we do have the books that we that the teachers in high school
Yeah, but
that highlight everything,
but
but still not enough,
but that's
bro.
not enough.
Yeah,
When
it's still not
when you
enough.
read Shakespeare poems, the whole theory around him is based on some of the cultural things that they're picking up from even the use of language. The way we speak, the tsotsitaal that we use now and the tsotsitaal that they used to use in 2000 is different.
Right.
So if you come across a song from the year 2000 and the song from now, you're going to know which era these songs existed in. So these are the things that we need to use. We need to be relevant in a way.
You just explain relevance in a different manner. That's crazy.
That's really
what?
That's really the inconsistency or the gap that we have as a country, I would say.
But not only in music. I feel like we also.
No, I was saying across.
Yeah.
Across.
I'm just highlighting what we need those movies. Like we're currently living the way we used to live.
Yeah, for sure. We do need, I mean, we need everything. We need people who are writing, writers to script writers or writers in general, because some books become movies.
Yeah, fact.
So anyone, some paintings have stories, and the reason the painting exists, there's a story behind that. And the story you're going to find through, people sharing stories, how your grandfather was a legend in your area because of this and that rock, he stood there at some point and this happened, all of this, all of this stuff. You need that, you need the same way how people talk about how they made a song. That's history. That's history in itself. So it's really important for us to capture these things, like recently the great Smiles Makama passed on last night. I don't know if you guys know Smiles Makama, but he created an instrument in the country. He's seen as a legend. He's played music across the world. His instrument is called the Smilophone, and it's based on Makoyane. And there are people who have stories on him. And Swazis are not tapping into these things. Like we invited him for Vugubone and we have him on record. We recorded the whole conversation, and that becomes culturally relevant. We didn't know.
Footage is power now.
We didn't know that it would come to this, but the power of capturing stories is important, because when you capture stories, you capture a bit of history. And if I'm honest, everything that you find at the museums that they call heritage, that was art before. For the people who lived in that era, that was art. That's why I say, if you dress on Vans, when you dress, when you put Vans on or whatever you wear, that could be at a museum at some point. Yeah, that could anything. Honestly, even caps. You wearing a cap, I'm wearing a cap. So in this era, people were wearing caps. So
it was all cap.
Yeah. So and it was a certain type of cut or whatever.
Yeah.
So all of that is a piece of history, is a piece of heritage, and when our grandchildren are going to see us, maybe it's going to inspire the way they design their fashion in 50 years to come. So all of these things, we kind of miss them, and we don't interrogate ourselves. We don't look into who we are in a way. Yeah.
So before we wrap it up,
I
want us to do a little something.
Hey.
I was supposed to get a red flag and a white flag, but I wasn't able to do that. So we're gonna do another thing.
Yeah.
One artist has to go to two, right? So let's start. Original or Sanilo?
Oh shit.
This is literally off the dome, guys. It's literally off the dome. I did not prepare any of this, but I'm doing it now.
That's a tough one, though.
I know. I've been thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, that's the one.
Hey, one artist has to go. Original, Sanilo. Sanilo doesn't have music, so she can go.
She has to go.
Yeah, she doesn't have.
She's not relevant.
No, she doesn't have music out, so she has to go.
Okay, Young Zesho lyrical pastor.
Um, I like Young Zesh. Maybe Lyrical Pastor can go. Yeah.
What else? Lucy or Lucian?
Huh?
Lucy.
Who's Lucy?
You don't know Lucy?
No.
Damn, bro. How? Lucian or Grizzly?
um,
But Lucian is an OG. Nah. Grizzly or Amari?
who should go?
Yeah.
Shit, that's tough. I Grizzly stays. I'm being biased. I'm
Nah,
being
why you being
biased. I'm being
biased, dog?
biased. I'm being biased.
But
He's our
anyway, shout out
artist. I'm
Mari,
being biased.
dog. What else? Keitero or can't put Keitero with anybody.
Let's go international.
He's international. We can't even.
Who's kid?
You haven't heard Keitero?
No.
Damn, bro. You know, just start consuming of the local thing.
No, the way I consume music is quite different in general.
Yeah.
So it's a weird way.
Yeah.
I do not create a connection with music because there's too much music that is being released every day.
Fact.
Yeah,
There's a lot to consume.
Exactly. So what ends up happening, I have a process in which I discover music, and I can listen to one song for a month. Literally, what happened at Bushfire, one of the artists who was performing at Bushfire, his name is Blind Smith. I had a chat with him earlier before his performance, and we're like, yeah, we were just talking, and I was like, I don't know your music,
Yeah.
and then he started performing, and I knew every word to his music. And he's like, you said you didn't know my music, but you were singing to my music. And I was like, actually, when I listen to music, I listen to the song.
Not the artist.
I don't look at the name.
At the brand.
Yeah, like sometimes I can look at the name, but then the minute I press play, put that thing on repeat, I don't care who the name is. I just listen to the song, and I can stream that song 1,000 times. And when I find new songs that I can listen to, I sometimes forget, and it helps me with encountering the song again, and it feels new again. So if I going to follow an artist, I'm going to be fixated on what's new and what's old. But if I don't care who the name is, I listen to the music, I can forget the name, and I can encounter the song in 10 years and it will feel new again. So that's how I listen to music.
That's a different way of consuming music.
Yeah, I mean, there's too much music. 60,000 songs are being released on Spotify every day. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, so
crazy.
So it's hard.
But before we wrap it up, do you have anything you want to say?
I don't know. That's hard. I didn't prepare that one. I didn't prepare that one. But I think the key thing for us to move our sector is really to keep working, to produce work. We need to tap into spaces. We need to test our work in spaces where they don't know us, because that's where you're going to get the most honest feedback. And that's one way for us in the sector, for it to grow, so that we can be able to have artists who are traveling. I mean, as I've already mentioned earlier, that the population here is too small for Swazi artists to make a living out of their work. But if we want to, we need to tap out, and if we want, we need to tap into spaces. And if we need to tap into spaces, we really need to look at the way we produce our work, and find ways into putting the work out there into different markets, and just see. You never know, you could be the next Uncle Waffles.
You may never know, bro.
Yeah, you never know. So yeah, that's really how it works. You need to be discovered, and that's how you create a career for yourself. I mean, it's something that I say all the time. If there's a certain platform that you wish to be in, you go there. That's what I've done, and I've went into festivals, and some of our artists have performed there, or some artists that we possibly work with have performed there, and we've created networks there. And that's really how it works. Even with Waffles, I possibly don't know properly the full story, but I do know she had to go somewhere, and that was a break. So if there's any platform that you would want to be in as an artist, you don't, sometimes you just don't need to go there and say, here's my work. Sometimes you just need to leave and just go there and attend, you know. And through attending, you're going to meet, you know, same people that vibe to the same thing that you vibe in. And someone is going to say, oh, I know that guys who are doing this, I can introduce you, you know. And that's how then the, you know, your career starts building. And that's literally it.
Hi, man.
Yeah.
I thank you for coming, bro.
No, it's a pleasure.
Thank
It's
you
a
for
pleasure.
coming.
It's a
You
pleasure.
managed to stay up with this video. Your time and support is highly appreciated
Yeah.
because you know you guys don't consume all the content and you need all the content. But anyways, shout out, man.
No,
Thank you so much for tuning in. We out.